Welcome to Coursen's Corner, a protective strategy podcast to help you succeed in staying safe. My name is Spencer Coursen. This is episode 6, I believe. Missed last week. I've been on the road for the past 10 days, and I had recorded an episode last week, but during the edit process, that file had gotten corrupted, and I was unable to save the file or get it edited for it to be released on Tuesday. And since I had left, very early Monday morning, just had to sacrifice that one and let it go. And I didn't get back home until late last night, which is why this recording is, or this podcast, or this episode of this podcast is going up, so much later than it normally would. But I wanted to make sure that it got out to you today. Had a really great trip. Took Ronan with me. We took my truck. I had I had to be in Nashville, and then in Washington, D.C., and then I got to see some family in Maryland, and then continued on to a job up north before making my way back to Texas on Sunday. Had a really great time. Wanted to talk to you a little bit about some of the, the reflections from the road trip that I had. There was nothing really in the news this week that struck me as, particularly significant. Although I don't really know what's going on at Fort Hood, there is apparently still another soldier missing, Sergeant Elder Fernandes, although according to reports, they believe that this soldier left the base on, quote, on his own accord. And according to an official statement from the 1st Cavalry Division, soldiers have, and I quote, soldiers have visited local hospitals and hotels throughout Central Texas and continue to expand their search efforts, the statement said. Continuing, the chain of command is working closely with local civilian and military agencies to coordinate search efforts. The unit also reaffirmed that the search for Fernandes, who is 23 years of age, will continue until he is found. We will, or at least I will, keep an eye on that story as it develops. But clearly, must be something in the water at Fort Hood. Listened to a lot of podcasts while I was on the road. One which was I found very interesting. I'm a big fan of the Whitney Cummings Good For You podcast. I don't know if you're listening to that, but if you're not, I highly recommend that you check it out. She had Miranda Cosgrove on her podcast, and Miranda told this very interesting story about, I guess this was like a few years ago, back in 2016, where she was out on a date. The name of the movie escapes me. She was out on a date. Date didn't go particularly well. It was raining. She was either waiting for a cab or waiting for the Uber to take her home or whatever the case may be. But she winds up getting on the phone with her mom, recapping the movie they had just seen. And instead of continuing that conversation as she walked back to her house, she just decided to go back to her parents' house and finish that conversation with her mom in person. So Miranda's back there at her mom's house. She gets a phone call later that night from the police asking if she's okay. Of course, she is. But the police tell her that a man has set himself on fire and committed suicide on her front lawn, and maybe she could come back and ask if she could come back to the scene to sort of answer a few questions. So apparently what had happened was there was a stalker that had intended on harming her that night. And what happened was another woman who was driving a car very similar to Miranda pulled up in front of the house. This man opens fire, shoots like 6 times into this woman's car. This woman survives. She's okay. She drives away. But then the man walks onto the front lawn, sets himself on fire, and while he's burning, shoots himself in the head and is dead moments later. Police conduct their investigation. They check her security cameras, and they see that this man, either throughout that evening or for several evenings before, had been basically burying a rape kit in her backyard. They retrieved a knife, they retrieved some rope, they retrieved a few other things that were very ominous and dangerous. She seemed fascinated by the fact that he also had some milk chocolate on hand, so I guess in case this guy got hungry. And they also checked out his apartment. They checked out his car. Apparently his apartment was very scarce. There was only like a mattress inside, but in his car they found blood, or some aspects of blood in the trunk or in the back seat. And then the reporting on this story just simply ends. she's talking to Whitney Cummings during this story, and she's just like, yeah, I don't know what happened. I tried to do just like a cursory search on my phone, when I got to a hotel one night and looked it up. And other than just, some very vague references to the story on, some of the Hollywood gossip sites, there's really nothing on this. And of course, they go into the whole thing with in Whitney's interview with Miranda talking about warning signs that this guy, and she was like, no, I had no idea. But she did say that, when they went back and looked at the security cameras, that they saw that the guy was on camera and had obviously been, engaged in these pre-incident indicators of violence, which had she known about it, would have obviously been a very real concern, which would have needed to be addressed. But she had no idea. And this is one of those things that I see happen so many times with my clients, is that they will install these security cameras, but then sort of fall into that safety trap of a false sense of security, because they think that because they have the cameras, they will be protected. But so many, and don't get me wrong, cameras are great. Cameras are a very useful tool when they are used in the totality of a fully realized security program. But just putting cameras up, other than a deterrence factor, they don't really do anything more than like a magnetometer at an airport would prevent someone from bringing a weapon into the terminal. They just simply alert TSA security that they did. Cameras are very much the same way. If you are not auditing their feed or abiding by the notifications that they provide to you, then they're really only effective in an investigative effort after something has happened, which kind of defeats the purpose entirely. What else? Here's a very important thing about being on the road trip. So often, and I'm rewatching The Wire right now. I'm listening to this podcast by Jemele Hill and Van Lathan on the Ringer podcast network called Down in the Hole. And so they're going episode by episode through each episode of The Wire. And I'm not sure if it's either season 3 or season 4, when you're introduced to the character Bunny Colvin, where his sort of speech to rookie police officers is to ask them where they are. And it's about being, the point of his commentary is about knowing exactly where you are at all times, so that if trouble happens and you need to call for help, you can tell them exactly where you are. So, for example, right now I am, I'm not going to give you my actual address, but let's say that, hey, I'll tell you the exact reason I'm telling the story is because of what happened when I was on the road. Knowing where you are on the road not only will allow you to inform first responders to where you are if you are in an accident or in some kind of trouble, but will also allow you to effectively communicate to others where someone is that is in need of help. I was driving back, I guess I was like coming through Tennessee this was yesterday, and I saw a truck hit a deer and get like spun out of control and crashed into the guardrail. I called 911 to alert them of the scene, and I was able to tell them exactly where they were because I had noticed the mile marker sign. It was like, hey, just witnessed an accident. It's a maroon truck. Had just gotten in an accident with a deer. They're slammed up against the guardrail. I'm not sure if they're okay, but they are. I am at the on I-40 at the 267.7 mile marker. They are on the opposite side of the road. Send police, send an ambulance. And so much of knowing where you are, being situationally aware, especially when we are outside of those environments where we are most familiar, is critical to maintaining our own, not only maintaining our own protective posture, but ensuring the certainty of our safety and of our fellow citizens as well. If you are ever in need of calling for a first responder assistance, being able to provide them with the exact location of where you are will not only help them to respond more efficiently, but will, when moments matter most, will allow for that care to get to you as quickly as possible. So just something to keep in mind when you're out on the road. Hey, I'm at the Starbucks at 45th and Broad on the southwest corner. Send police, send an ambulance. And that's another thing. If you're ever calling for help, you don't have to give a lot of detail. If you just simply give a location and then follow it up with send police, send an ambulance, that's enough to get the cavalry coming. Sometimes when asking for help, less is more. Hey, there's trouble at 45th and Grand, send police, send an ambulance. Same thing if you're talking to your children about calling 911. Mommy needs help, send police, send an ambulance. My address is 123 Broadway. We're on the 4th floor, unit 401. Dumbing things down, keeping things simple and stupid is not only going to help you to communicate more effectively to those who are going to come to your aid, but it will also empower you as the individual to know that you can communicate effectively and clearly to those to whom you are asking for assistance. So just a few things to keep in mind on that front. I also had great use with my solar panels on this trip. It's especially when you're traveling long distances, as I was. My truck only has like so many outlets, but I had the Gold Zero solar panels hooked up to the front on the dashboard of my truck I was driving, so that they were getting lots of great sun, and I was able to keep all of my devices charged up and ready while I was traveling. Not just my cell phone, but my laptop, my iPad. I have an emergency flashlight which can also be charged solarly or through solar power. And so just wanted to touch base with you guys this week. I think I'm going to follow a little bit more on this Fort Hood soldier story that's going on. If anyone has any more information about the Miranda Cosgrove situation, I'm fascinated to learn more about that. And I think we can wrap things up here. It's a very quick episode. Just wanted to get something out so that everyone had something to have as a takeaway for this week. I'm working on a few other big projects that I hope to bring back to you very soon. Heard from my publisher today. They are moving forward on the book. They are working on cover art design, so I'm very excited about that. Can't wait to share more with you on that. And okay, we'll wrap things up there. Thank you so much for checking in. Work, sweat, win, and I will see you back here next week.